first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Weatherman, we can't allow any further delay. So stop your waiting.
Well, hello and welcome to First Alert Weather Podcast number 118. I'm Mark Nelson, Chief Meteorologist here at Fox 12 Oregon. Katie, how are you?
I'm doing quite well.
It's kind of weird because it's just the two of us now.
I know.
And we've been working together all day. So I was just saying to Katie, it feels like we just paused our workflow and now we're going to do a podcast, which I guess that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah. I was prepping the 8 while I was waiting for you. So getting ready for that.
There's a good chance you're listening to this on Friday when it should be raining outside. By the time you're listening to this, it should have rained or it is raining outside. All right. But we're between the 7 and the 8 o'clock show. So it's kind of during my lunch break. Katie's getting ready for the big 8 p.m. show over on Fox 12 Plus. Got anything big happening at 8 o'clock?
Not that I can see. I'm looking at radar. I can see some showers to the northwest, but nothing to us yet.
Already?
Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah. They're right next to the banner where it says First Alert. It's just hitting the banner up in that top left corner.
Don't you let that radar cover up the branding. The bosses will not like that.
It goes behind it, so we're good.
And I did also put on a tie for today. Actually, I just didn't take off the TV. So I'm dressed up, extra dressed up for this podcast.
I usually do this from home, so I think this is the first time I have makeup on.
Same with me. Okay. And I have this weird lighting coming in from the northeast, I guess you'd say. So we got to bring that thing down. But anyway, it's not about us. It's about all the graphics and the weather information we're going to bring to you today. So you see our rundown right there. We're going to wrap up September because now it's early October. We're recording this on the 3rd. I bet you're probably listening on the 4th or watching on the 4th or 5th. And remember, for this reason, we highly recommend you watch the video version, which is on the weather page. Remember in the 90s we had to say that, www.kptv.com, but we don't say the www anymore. That's okay, I'm going to say it. And then you go to the weather page there, and that's where you get all the links for the podcast and the blog and whatnot. All right, so we're going to wrap up September. The water year just wrapped up. How did we do? Well, and what is the water year? You may not know what that is, so we'll describe what that is. We've got a general look at the forecast. First, it's October. We'll take a look at what we typically see in October. And then the next 1 to 2 weeks, what are we seeing out there? Because it looks pretty stable. So fingers crossed. Fire season, hopefully our final update here. And then viewer photos. We have an interesting viewer photo that we...
Oh, I remember that one.
The fall streak.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. I got to find the right graphic here. I can't do two things at once. You know that. Here we go.
And there's nobody for me to talk with while you get it going.
Katie, I think you could talk to yourself just fine.
This is true.
So could I. All right. So big picture, September. So it's interesting. Boy, that's September. Look at that global temp this is partly El Nino fueled. Obviously the climate, the globe is warming. We know that. I don't have the exact stats, but I know many months out of the last year have been record warmest across the globe. This is from UAH, pretty reliable data set here. And still very high, no indication of La Nina yet. So very warm across the globe. I don't have the exact stats. It may have been the warmest September on record across the globe. Yeah. Are you still there?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, you know what? Because I went to the graphic. Because I have to move the graphic forward so I can't see you anymore. You know what? I'm going to move it.
I'm here.
So I can see Katie. Here we go. Okay, now I can see you.
Okay.
All right, so if we take the USA, I think it's one of the warmest Septembers on record. We don't have the final stats for September yet because that doesn't come out until like a week or so after the month finishes. Very warm. So that's the USA. And then here's Portland. These are the high temperatures. And it's interesting. It was up and down. You agree? We had some cool periods there.
Okay, so I don't know if people that are watching are having this issue, but because you moved the graphic over, it's cut off for me.
Oh.
I can't see the first. There it is. Now I can see it all.
I shouldn't move the graphic. What happens if I go way to the right? That's fascinating. Well, then you know what, Katie? I'm just not going to see you.
That's okay. You've seen me all day.
There's only two of us. You just jump right in if I'm just blabbing away. Okay. You just say, wait, Mark, I'm not insulted at all.
Yeah.
All right, so these are the highs. This is interesting because these are the highs, but we actually, to get an average monthly temperature, we're going to take the low and the high together, right? Because it's not fair to just use one or the other. So if you look at the lows, and we have a friend of viewer, Greg Carriage, he says, use this graphic more. And I agree, there are certain times where it's interesting to have a lot more red on this one, aren't there?
Yeah, there's only
days.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 days where we were below average on the low.
Yeah, so if it was the second warmest September in Portland's history, a lot of that was fueled by the low temperatures, not the highs. I think I saw somewhere somebody said, yeah, it was only like in the top 20 for highs. So that's interesting now that you got to, sometimes it's fueled by the high temperatures, sometimes by the lows. Rain, we've talked about this last podcast, how, PDX only had half a normal, but look at this. This just shows these are rough estimates. Just yesterday, Katie, I realized you could do this. I thought I couldn't do a whole month at a time, but you can.
You figured out how to do that?
Just the way this site from NOAA, the way it calculates it may be off a few hundredths of an inch for any one spot. Like PDX, I think was actually, it was 0.74. Wait, it is the right number. Anyway, but you can see how the middle, the metro and east metro, we got some big downpours, and we covered that in the last podcast.
Yeah, so this is all of September at each one of those numbers. Okay. That's interesting.
If you look at lawns in Gresham, I bet they look a little greener than the lawns up in Salmon Creek or over on the far west side, just because they had a bit more rain. Parts of Gresham and Troutdale had over 2 inches for the month, which is pretty respectable for September. Yeah. But it was all about that convective precip, the really heavy downpours that we had. I think it was on the 11th and the 14th. And then, as I recall, the 25th there, the 0.4 at PDX, I think that's where it was a little more widespread downpours.
Yeah, that was the day that you and I were like, this is interesting. And then we looked at the outside numbers and saw like just outside of the airport, and we're like, oh my goodness, like there are people that got half inch or more. And it just sort of threw the totals off.
You have a better brain than me on that, because I quickly forget the weather data. I remember specific things, but although I guess between the two of us, we pretty much nail it.
Yeah.
So that's the rain. Okay, so that was a September wrap. September warmer than normal and technically drier than normal, but for many of us, it was a pretty average September.
Yeah.
Okay, the water year. Katie, do you want to take a stab at this one, or you want me to do this one?
No,
you want to do
I like this one. I actually have funny, well, to me, it's a funny story about this one. So at my previous station, the way that the numbers were brought into our system, it gave us the water totals for the year from January to December. And it drove me nuts, because the water year is not January to December. It's October to September. And so when I would try and explain the year-to-date totals on air, I would be like, okay, how do I go into this without like boring the heck out of people?
Right.
So that was.
So this is a normal looking year, right?
Yes.
This is, if we just go by calendar, in the Western USA, most of the Western USA, we have our driest period in summertime.
Yep. And so for those of you that are just listening, the beginning of the season, as I mentioned, starts in October, and we have on average 3.42, and then it goes up to 5 3/4 in December. Then we turn the corner and start going back down into the summer months, about 1/2 inch July and August, and then 1.5 in September.
Yeah. So the problem there, you see, I've got it highlighted with 2 little circles. The problem is, if you look at a normal calendar year, you're going to get the end of one wet season and the beginning of the next wet season.
So it's I think of it like a school year, right? Your school year starts in the fall and it ends. Good analogy. Yeah. So school year, like water year. Yeah. There you go.
When you do this on TV, I don't have the animation here. I have the right side slide over to the left side. That's what I really love about that graphic. But there. So then if we start on October 1st every year, then everything's in one bucket. And when we look back, we can say, oh, that was a wet year. That was a dry year. That was like you said, in Central Oregon, where you were before, that'd be an even more critical issue for irrigation and water use.
Yes. We talked a lot about drought and all that. So the water year was a big deal, and my graphics didn't line up, and it was so frustrating.
Yeah. So that is nice. So this is what we do all across the West for water managers as well, for, snowpack, all that. So that's a water year, starts October 1st every year. And so this year in Portland, we had about slightly over 39 inches of rain. And the last 3 years, the water years have been pretty reasonable. In fact, 21 to 22. Each water year, of course, is going to have 2 years in it, like we just showed you, because it crosses the middle of the year there. But the last 3 years pretty wet, but then the 4 years before that really dry. I mean, drier than normal. This does bottom out at 28 inches. So every year of the last 7, we've been between 28 and 41 inches. But below 30 is getting a little dry for Portland, and you see several years there where it was pretty dry.
Yeah.
So in the end, this water year, a little wetter than average, but not spectacularly wet by any means. We've had some that are 40s, 50s, even 60.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that is a water year. I think a lot of people a lot of hardcore weather geeks, watch us and listen to this podcast. I think most know generally how it works. And other people that are for sure farmers, I think know what we're talking about when we mention the water year.
Yeah, people that have water rights and they're waiting for, their
that's
allotment
a big deal.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Especially in the drier parts of the state. Okay, so next subject, we got the next 1 to 2 weeks. First, let's go over October. October's interesting. It changes more than any other month. I like to harp on this every October. Plus, it's a pretty graphic with leaves.
Well, it's funny too. When I was updating the almanac and I was putting the temperatures in the start through each day, I said to myself, "My goodness, I think this is the most." And then that day, you brought this up, and I was like,
"What do you know?"
I was right.
Yeah, no other month goes up 13 degrees or 13 degrees or down 13 degrees in 1 month. The spring,
change.
we have a slower rise in the spring and a quicker fall off in the fall, autumn. In the rainy season, I mean, we average 3.4 inches. That's about double what we typically get in September. Each year, of course, is different, as you will see. But most years, in fact, my old neighbor, John, we were just talking the other day, and he said, yeah, it seems like once you get past the middle point of October, most years is starting to turn wet. Like more reliably gray and more weather systems. Basically, the jet stream is shifting south more often. Wait, I thought I had the rain. Where's the rain? Oh, there we go. I'm going to jump forward to this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so our Halloween-themed graphics, of course, come out here in October. And you can see each October has been different the last 7 years here. 2021, a little wetter than average, and so is 2017. I remember 2016, I think we had 8 inches. Did we have 8 inches of rain? I think in 2016, it rained almost every day in October. It was like November that year. Yeah. So every once in a while, we get a really wet October, but most Octobers, we see a range of conditions. It's not like gray and rainy the whole month. Most Octobers, we get some decent dry weather mixed in with the wet weather. It's kind of off and on, maybe like April.
And last year on Halloween, my kids got hot while we were out with their costumes on. Like they were sweating.
It was warm.
It was really warm.
But we didn't have much of any rain through the first half of the month. So it must have all been between like the 15th and I don't have October from last year here, but it must have been in that latter half of the month. It's pretty typical. At some point, 15th through the 30th, we're going to get some soakings. And we stopped talking about fire weather at that point. I think every single year, even in years like 2022. Actually, let's go back to the rain. Hey, so 2022, we had 3 inches of rain, but that was our warmest October on record, almost 6 degrees above normal. So 2 years ago.
So, I wish. Do you happen to have the next part of this graphic?
The rain, I do not.
Yeah. Oh, because it would be so interesting to see if all that rain probably came in that last week.
I assume it did the 21st. Look at the highs go from the 80s and 70s down to 50s.
Yeah.
Pretty regularly. And if you look closely, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 record highs in the first half of the month. You can see the yellow around those squares.
Yeah.
So that was like the high end, warmest October we've ever seen. Clearly, that's not happening this year because the first and the second, it was 86, 88, and we're not seeing that kind of weather. That said, a little tease, it is pretty warm and dry.
That's the one that October was where we hit the 12, 80-degree days and above, right?
Right there.
There we go. Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Rapid fire graphics here, folks. Yeah, that was 12 days. So before that time, we'd never had more than 6 days at or above 80 in the month of October. And this 2022, we did it 12 days.
Wow.
Yeah, but a lot of years we don't even hit 80 in the month of October. 4 out of 10 Octobers we do hit it. So just under 50% we do hit 80 degrees. And we've had one this year today. We hit 79 in PDX, so we almost had a second day.
Close.
We'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we have one more before we get to the 15th, as you'll see in a moment. Where are we now? Okay, we hit that one. So many graphics. Oh, this one, I just pulled this up to see how hot it can get in October. It's always going to be in the first half of the month. Mm-hmm. But you can see we've had 90s on the coast in October. 1980, Corvallis, 92. Newport, 94. Eugene, 94. Is there another 1980? Oh, Astoria, 85. So it is possible with offshore flow early in the month to get above 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. Okay, and east of the Cascades, notice no warmer because we're really getting into the season now where the heat is from easterly wind events. Yeah. For the next few weeks. So I was surprised the Dalles has hit 95 times in the month of October, but has never been above 90 yet. The coast has. That shows you it's all about the offshore wind events.
Yeah.
Yeah. and bent. In 1917, they hit 91.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. That's really interesting to me that it was that long ago.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think I hit all those. Okay, I knew we had to have a moving satellite loop
That's so
in honor of Jeff. So beautiful view here. Boy, you can almost see the ridging, the high pressure here. Right here. See this nice arc. Can you see my cursor? I always have to say, can you see my cursor? Okay. Even though I know you can see it, I just want to say, can you see my cursor?
Just confirmation.
Okay, so there we go. Weather system is approaching weak cold front, although it looks plenty of cloud cover. And then notice the smoke in Central Oregon from those fires. Some of those fires started mid-July. We've covered that ad nauseum. We'll cover that again in a few moments. So we have a weather system approaching here. What's happening here? Okay, now we're getting into the meteorology. So this is the upper level flow, 500 millibars, late morning Friday. Good chance you're listening about this time. And what do you see, Katie, there up there?
A trough.
There is a trough. There's a little trough coming through.
It's very shallow, but it's there.
Yeah, it's weak. It's not a long wave trough. It's a short wave trough. Had to say that very carefully. So that's going through. We do have a hot ridge of high pressure, lots of record highs. Did you see? We didn't cover that much on the air yesterday, but many locations in California had all-time October highs yesterday. I think Sacramento was 6 degrees above their all-time October high record.
I have family there,
heat.
so I'm surprised they didn't message me.
Really hot, like mid 100s or beyond.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow.
So that ridge is kind of being squished down a little bit. So that's Friday this morning, if you're listening on Friday. Then by Saturday afternoon, that's gone. That's moved into the Midwest. And then we have ridging building once again. So this is Saturday afternoon. Did I say Saturday morning? Saturday afternoon. Heights go up to, on the 500 millibar heights, 583. That's a nice good solid ridging for October. And so this tells us we're going to have a pretty good weekend. We're going to have some rain as the system comes through on Friday. Maybe that's today if you're listening. And then it dries out. The weekend looks great.
Good
by
for football.
By Wednesday, you do see the ridging is kind of getting squished a bit, but we're still in this mild southwesterly flow. The heights are still 575, which is pretty reasonable. By Wednesday, it's pretty typical October. There's something, maybe a trough trying to develop out here, right? Do you see that wiggle?
Yeah.
Maybe something is going by to the north. You kind of have a tight gradient in the heights overhead. Maybe we're getting some clouds, maybe a shower, depending on which model you look at.
Wednesday midday.
Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going through kind of the upper level for the next about 10 days.
I haven't looked at the 7-day. Do we still have a chance for showers on that day, or did you take it off?
Lucky for you, we've got the 7-day coming up.
Okay.
Because this is an all-inclusive podcast. We cover everything. We try not to leave anything out. Which reminds me, I did just leave something out.
Okay.
Aurora Borealis, breaking news. Maybe we have this is as of Thursday evening. Yeah. There is a geomagnetic strong storm warning, G3 class, because there were 2 solar flares today. The second one was quite a bit stronger.
I'm pulling up the graphic on my computer over here. So
and we may see Aurora Borealis tonight, Thursday night. It looks like that flare was weaker though. And as of when we're recording this after sunset, there's no jump in the indices that would say suddenly we're going to get northern lights. Maybe it's far more likely Friday night or Saturday night as that second stronger wave arrives.
Yeah.
That was your breaking news. We'll cover Mount Adams earthquakes maybe in a different one. There were some earthquakes recently at Mount Adams. Ooh, that's a tease.
Oh, I should get one of my connections here to talk with us about that.
Yeah, you get your connections going, Katie.
I will. I have some.
That'd be great. So that's, I'm serious. So that's Wednesday. Yep. I didn't want to sound flippant.
No.
As I often am. So that's Wednesday midday. You see a trough developing to the west. And then next Friday, now this is the European model. They all look kind of the same. Looks like something wants to come through. Another trough wants to kind of try to come through next Friday. But that looks pretty flat, doesn't it? Again, it's not like we're getting just pounded by a big, deep short wave or long wave trough. That's not happening. So that's next Friday. And this tells me, okay, so we've got some showers this Friday. And then there's another wiggle. Then we get ridging over the weekend, early next week. Another wiggle tries to come through maybe the end of next week. But watch. I bet you haven't seen this yet, Katie. 2 days later, Sunday the 13th.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why I think this is and you can kind of see the look here. It's like it's denting the ridge that's trying to develop again. There we go. This is the European again. But, so this is Sunday the 13th.
I was just looking at the numbers,
588 heights.
Yeah.
That's a big warm ridge on Sunday the 13th.
I have to get really close to the computer to see it, so I'm
which means nobody else can see it. So that's why we read the numbers for you. That was good, Katie, that you said what are the numbers. Pretty strong ridge. This is the GFS This is a GFS Ensemble average. So that was the Euro. This is a GFS Ensemble average. Always better to go with Ensemble averages. How many days out is that? 9 days? That's 10 days out, hour 240.
It's about 585, so it's not too far off.
I mean, it's averaging 585, which means there are strong hints that we got one trough coming through Friday, today, if you're listening on Friday, and then another one late next week. And ridging may pop up another, right beyond that for the following weekend. Who knows? Maybe that following weekend will be nice, Saturday the 12th, Sunday the 13th. Way out there, but we can see general trends. So that was the GFS 500 millibar anomaly, the ensemble average, which is good. And so if you take, what does that do for rain? The next 16 days, the anomaly for rain, dry. Or I should say drier than average, right? Yeah. And you can see if there's ridging over us, but we get flatter kind of west-southwesterly flow. What does that do in Western Canada if the main jet is just north of us? Wet. Yeah. Really wet up there and on the coast of BC. I can't see you because I've got the graphics in front of me.
I was making...
I figured you were making some sort of thumbs down.
Well, I was making rain fingers.
Oh, okay.
Like I did the other day. You remember?
A lot of rain.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. So we think, in general, the next 2 weeks are probably going to be warmer than average and drier than average. Another way to look at it, 850 millibar temps. Now, I've just cut out the 850 millibar temps from the Euro from this morning's model.
Oh, look.
It's the ensemble average. So the green line is the average of all the 51 ensemble members. So it's pretty safe to go with the green line and say, it's relatively warm. Most of the time in the next 2 weeks, it's between 5 and 15, plus 5 and plus 15.
Yeah.
You need 0 or lower to get past elevation snow. Do you see it down around 0 on the average?
Anywhere? No, not even close.
If you look at the control run, which just means the operational run control and operational are more or less the same thing.
Yeah.
It has, a little more spikes there, and then it has quite strong ridging there on that Sunday the 13th and Monday the 14th. It's going above 20. But then the little whiskers at the bottom, that's the lowest of all the ensemble members. That's the lowest. And notice, one could argue through the 15th on these 51 members, there's not a single member that goes below, has passed elevation snow. There are a few members, a few outliers that show up after the 15th. Mm-hmm. You see a few of those little whiskers dipping below. Oh, right here.
Just a
right
couple,
here.
yep. At the end.
But that's high confidence. There's not going to be a sudden cascade snowfall in the next 2 weeks.
There's some people that are probably bummed about that.
It's early. I remember 1992. Well, I'm going way back. 1992, was that it? Or was it 94? Warm. And then all of a sudden the pattern shifted. We got troughs down from the northwest, and suddenly we had 2 feet of snow at passes or at Timberline or government camp the third week of October. So we'll wait and see. Clear. This is a European ensemble, and you can see very clear message here. Rainy on Friday. Yep.
Every single one says we're getting something.
Yeah. By the way, I wouldn't say I got burned, but early in the week, the European was the only one really saying, hey, most of its ensemble members were looking wet for Friday, and the GFS kept having most of the precip going north, very few ensemble members wet, and then suddenly that dang GFS gets on board. Mm-hmm. Mental note, if there's a discrepancy, it's safer to go with the Euro most of the time. Not always, but shouldn't have fallen for that. We only had a chance for a sprinkle. I should have just said we got showers coming Friday. Yeah. Okay, so then you see here next Friday, Saturday, there are quite a few members that have some rain with that second trough.
Mm-hmm.
Until
and
that
then
time,
again
though,
out the next one.
Yeah, maybe beyond.
Yeah.
That's the Euro. GFS Ensemble has a few more members next Wednesday, Thursday. We'll see. Oh, now it's on board with all the rain Friday, the day ahead of time. And it is also the GFS also saying, around next Friday, these are 24 hours. So when it ends here, they would have been ending 24 hours before that time. So probably Friday, something's up. We might get some more showers. So that's good, I guess. So there's our 7-day forecast, Katie. Memorize this thing because in, 25 minutes, you're going to be talking about it on TV.
I'm ready.
We don't want to imply, by the way, that Katie didn't look at any weather maps or anything.
I've been looking at them all day.
Yeah, I mean, you've actually, you do. We all do lots of things, and so then when you get close to your show, then it's like, okay, let me take a look.
Well,
I don't want
looking,
to imply you came in blind.
No, I literally, since I help, I come in, and if there's any graphics that need to be made, I help Mark with those. And then once his shows are going, and I know he has everything he needs, then I go in and look at maps, and that's what I've been looking at ever since then. And then about a half hour out before, then I go and see what graphics there are and start putting them in. So I just haven't looked at the 7-day yet, but I've been looking at maps for.
So basically, Katie gets real serious in those 20 minutes before. So that's when I try to go grab my lunch or go to the donut place or whatever.
Yes, but you never bring me a donut.
You're gluten free.
There's gluten free donuts out there.
Yeah, but those are not the same.
They're not.
Not at the place I go. Oh, maybe they do have those. We can talk about that later. All right, so fire season final update, maybe. We'll see. This is how it looked today. I don't have a moving image. This is a still shot. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Tuesday the 1st. This is not today. We're recording this on the 3rd. You might be listening or watching on the 4th. Okay. Yeah, boy, the fires were a little more active there. There was some smoke today again.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was looking at the satellite, they were still there.
So again, it's slowly winding down. Basically, we've had just enough cooling and showers from time to time in the last month that things are not raging out of control. But there were 5,700 acres burned in the last 24 hours. That said, almost all that was, I think it was 4,000 something acres up in north central Washington. One grass fire took off. Yesterday, the number was 900 acres. So we still have 14 large fires in Oregon, 5 in Washington. We don't see any soaking rain, but the rain, when I say soaking, like a season-ending rain, we don't see a 1 or 2 inches. But just these showers coming through tomorrow, that's going to knock things down again. I bet we don't see any smoke Saturday, and then they'll start to reappear Sunday, Monday a little bit. Late next week, showers again, knock it down. Basically, I think we're going to get to mid-October without any, we're done with heat waves. We don't see any lightning. And we sure don't see a dangerous east wind episode. We keep getting these mild east wind episodes, like today where there were gusts 20 or 30 on the west slopes of the Cascades. And there was a red flag warning for the northern slopes of the western slopes of the northern Oregon Cascades. But, it just wasn't crazy east wind, which is good. So I think, fingers crossed, I think we're going to make it okay.
Yeah. I didn't realize that we still had that many burning, though, in Oregon.
Yeah, there's still quite a few. Most of them are not putting out smoke.
Yeah,
maybe like 6 or 8 of those.
So maybe that's because I was looking at the satellite to see where the smoke and stuff was, and I only saw the 2.
Yeah, it's those ones in the Central Cascades, and several of those boys started in mid-July. And the cliche is, and you'll hear the news people say like, these may burn until the fall rains or until fall, and sure enough, some did.
Yeah.
Okay, viewer photos. We have this one, a circumhorizontal arc. This is a neat picture. His Robert Mixon from Beaverton. Thank you very much. And that is kind of it's almost like a smile in the sky. It's called that sometimes, a smile in the sky. Do I have one more? Yeah, there we go. So Robert Mixon in Beaverton. This was Saturday the 28th, if I recall correctly. Yeah, that was Saturday the 28th. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, and I was going to say that his wife emailed me and she said, "Oh, that's wonderful. He didn't know if it was going to be used." And she said he's an astronomer, I think, astronomer, and so he caught that day. So that was a neat picture. That was a neat view. Yeah. That is the ice crystals, hexagonal, 6-sided ice crystals, reflecting the light back, kind of like a rainbow, except it's with ice. And sometimes they're called fire rainbows, and they look far brighter than this. This was a relatively weak one. And let's just slow down for a minute. Just as that arc is visible, Katie, only when the sun is at a perfect angle, spiritual enlightenment often requires precise alignment of one's thoughts, feelings, and actions.
Is that Gandhi or is that you?
Credit to www.spiritualmojo.com. I saw that somewhere. So you just remember, everything has to be perfect for that, just like your own spiritual enlightenment sometimes requires precise alignment. Got that?
Thoughts, feelings, and actions. Oh, I love this.
I could be a Bhagwan. Yeah. Hole punch cloud. Okay. And I missed this one. It was submitted the same day by DB. I don't think it's a DB we're all thinking of. But it is a DB. Okay. And this is a fall streak cloud. It's really fascinating how it's like part of the cloud is like falling out. Pretty interesting, huh? Also called a hole punch cloud. I have a graphic for this. We don't have the moving version, but we watched it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's typically when plane exhaust plane goes through pretty much, saturated mid-level clouds. It goes through, and the plane exhaust goes through. It briefly lowers the pressure, of course, as the plane goes through on the wings. And so then ice crystals form. But wait a minute, once some ice crystals form, then the supercooled water droplets, they're below freezing around it. Then they accrete, they get together, and you're more or less the plane exhaust is causing a cloud to form and then ice crystals to fall out. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an expanding hole. And then at some point it kind of peters out.
I've never seen one with my own eyes. I've only seen pictures, and I'm bummed that I missed that. That's a pretty cool one.
And then here's a classic. They're just starting some bright colors, fall colors in McMinnville here. 2 days later, this was on Monday. Sharon Bueller, thank you very much. And remember, you can submit the photos through our app, or you can go to kptv.com. I always say this on air because I'm an old person. I actually like the big monitor, and I like to go, see. I go to the website.
Yeah, well, I know other people who say, how do I get that from my phone to my computer? So that's where the app comes in, because you can just submit them directly from your phone.
Yeah, it's a lot easier that way. So I think we covered it all. Look at that. We came in under time. Probably if there's only two of us, we're more efficient, folks. We're going to get you the information and get out of here.
Just get in, get it done, and get going.
Yeah. So I'm going to eat lunch. You're going to do a show.
Yep.
We should say, so we weren't sure what frequency we're going to do these podcasts. We're going to try for every 2 weeks, I think. I think so. And I guess if I tease this, I better get it done. So I think in 2 weeks, it'd be 2 weeks. I'm going to do the kind of the winter outlook. What do we see? Not really a forecast, because I'm not crazy. I don't do a winter forecast, but we can give you some ideas based on La Nina, PDO, that sort of stuff. I got to pull together all the graphics to do a blog post about it anyway. So I think maybe the next one we'll just say, hey, kind of an outlook. What do we see coming up for this upcoming winter? Plus, that'll only be a day or two before the big OMSI winter weather meeting. Yeah. You said you are going to make it to that one, Katie?
Yeah, I am this year, because now I'm filling in the evenings where Camilla was. I now have Saturday mornings off, so I will be able to come this year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That's always a fun one. Oh, go ahead.
I was did we promise something else that we were going to do in the next podcast? We just talked about it a minute ago. And
I have it written somewhere else, but let's not complicate it. Okay. Because I don't remember what it is. I did say, I think I said it in my brain I was going to do something else, but I think for sure the winter thing, that usually takes a chunk of a podcast. Plus, we'll talk about what's coming up, in the next week or two, weather-wise, following that. So you should know that for all you weather geeks out there, in case you don't know, it is, I don't have the calendar in front of me. Wait, I got my phone. So hang on. I'm pulling up the calendar. October, look how quickly I can operate things. It would be Saturday the 19th, 10 a.m. at OMSI. It's free. Everybody come and see Katie.
Because I'm all that exciting to see.
You've seen me. I'm no big deal. I'll do my winter recap. The yearly recap, not just the winter recap. And that's fun because several people kind of forecast to give their outlook for the upcoming winter. We go over all the indices, all that stuff. It's just hardcore geekery for about 2 hours. 10 a.m.
So
OMSI. You got to pay for parking. Sorry, folks. Unless you take transit, that works. You might lose $4 or $5 that day on the parking.
I don't mind paying for that. OMSI's a good thing to pay toward.
I know. I'm so cheap. Anyway, it's a great time. So anyways, thank you for joining us. Katie, thanks for joining us. And I should point out, Camilla, I just texted her with her, I think yesterday or the day before. She's fine. Baby's fine. Yep. Everything's good.
I talked to her this morning.
Good. Okay, so we're good. So we will see you in a couple weeks, mid-October. Probably the pattern is changing about that time, I would think. But we'll see you later. Have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching, and we'll see you next time.
So stop your waiting and hesitating and tell us, please tell